Hello everyone. Today in this unit we are going to talk about design principles. Let's divide design principles into four categories: visual design principles, organization and navigation principles, page layout principles, and points that you need to consider when you want to choose colors and fonts. Before dive into these principles, I want to spend some time on basics. Okay, let's start with Visual Studio Code. You know that we use Visual Studio Code to code in this class. If you haven't installed Visual Studio Code yet, you can just Google it, Visual Studio Code, and go to the download section and download suitable Visual Studio Code for your operating system and install it. Okay, after installing Visual Studio Code, you can run Visual Studio Code, and don't worry about the pages and files that are already opened. If you want to create a new website, you should go to the File menu and then choose Open Folder. Then go to the folder that you want to store your website and select it. If you haven't created such a folder, you can create a new one and then select it. Now Visual Studio Code opens the folder, and you may see this prompt. It says that, do you trust the authors of the files in this folder? And of course we trust. We are ourselves the author of whatever is in this file. Currently nothing is there. You can say yes, I trust the author, and tick this, check this checkbox to don't see this kind of prompts in the future. Okay, now I close again this tab, and to create a new HTML code in the Explorer pane, you can come here and click on new folder icon. When you click this, you can name your file. Let's say home.html. The extension of HTML files must be HTML. So in this class, when we want to create an HTML page, we need to create a file with HTML extension. Now we created our first HTML file. Nothing is there yet. It depends on the setting of your computer. You may see different stuff here. Let me type exclamation mark. Visual Studio Code automatically pops a window that shows a template for us. By pressing Enter key, the template is added to our file. As you see in the first line, we see this code, doctype HTML. This is a directive command, which means this doesn't do anything from the code perspective. It tells browsers that this code actually is an HTML5 code. HTML5 is the latest standard of HTML language, and we need to add this directive to our HTML page to tell browsers that this is an HTML file code and you need to treat this code based on HTML5 standard. Then we see an HTML element. HTML element or HTML tag is required tag for every HTML page. Actually, every HTML page must be defined inside an HTML tag. Actually, each tag has some attributes, and attributes have defaults. If you want to change the default value of each attribute, you can add a space in the opening tag like this and type the attribute name, put a equivalent sign, and then inside double quote type the new value of the attribute. Actually, the default value of lang attribute is eng, so you don't need to type it, but to insist that this page is an English page, you can add it. Then we know that each HTML page must have two sections, a head section and a body section. In the head section, we put general stuff about our page, we put configuration, some stuff about configuration of our page, we may link some other resources to our page, stuff like that. Basically, anything that is related to settings of our page should be defined in the head section. Inside the body section, we put whatever we want to show to our users. So the content of our web page must be defined inside a body tag, a body element. Okay, in the head section, we have meta tag, and as you see, meta tag doesn't have a closing tag. These kind of tags are called self-closing tags, and they don't need any content. Here, by using this tag and this attribute, we say that the content of this page should be encoded based on UTF-8 standard. And UTF-8 standard is a standard that covers almost all famous and common languages in the world. So far, we don't need this line. We haven't learned about it. We will talk about it later. And we have a title element in the head section. The title element is used to define a title for our web page in our browsers. We should see a preview of our work. If you want to see a preview of your work, you should install an extension to your Visual Studio Code. To install an extension, you should come here, you must come here and click on this. And here, search for the extension. The extension that we need is called Live Preview. Live Preview by Microsoft. So I already installed it. That's why you don't see the install button here. But if you haven't installed it, you will see the install button. And by just clicking on the install button, the extension will be added to your Visual Studio Code. After installing the extension, come back to the Explorer section by clicking on this icon, close extra stuff. Now, if you right click on the name of a file in the Explorer pane, you will see show preview option in the pop-up menu. So when I click on this, I will see a preview of my page. As you see, the title of this page is document, whatever is written here. Let's change it to home. Now you see the title of the page changed to home, but nothing is in the content section of our page. Okay, let's assume that we want to create a website that introduces Augusta City to visitors. And assume this website is supposed to have 4 pages, 4 different sections: home, hotels, attractions, and contact me sections. So if you want to design a website, first of all, you should design a template for your website. Why? Because we want all pages have the same style. So let's start with one of our pages, let's say home pages, and define a structure for our web page. Here we want to create a website like this. So this website has a header section, a menu section, and a content section. As you know, we have some special tags for this kind of stuff. We use header tags to create a header section. We use an AV tag to create a menu section, and we use main tag to create a content section. As you see, these tags don't have any visual effect. They are used to structure our code. Now in the header, let's type Augusta. So I use H1 tag because the text that I want to show in this heading, in this header section, is actually the most important text, and that's why I use H1 tag. Augusta. Okay. And in AV, we want to have a menu containing 4 links, 4 options. And you know that in a web page, we use hyperlinks to create an option. To create a hyperlink, we use an A tag. So A, in the href, we define the address of the link, the target address of the link, the destination of the link. So I type home.html, and in the content section of the link, which is the space between an opening tag and a closing and corresponding closing tag, I put something which is considered the title of the link. Here I type home. Then I define another HTML, another link. Let me see what we want. We want hotels. So we need a link for hotels page. Let's say we will have a page called hotels.html, which contains information about hotels, and the title of this link should be hotels. Another one, attractions.html. As you see, in the name section of files, I don't use any capital characters. Please follow this kind of rule. It's not rule, it's called conventions. Convention is actually basically recommendation. If you don't follow a convention, nothing wrong will happen from code-wise. Your program will work correct, but later you will have difficulty either in maintaining the code or developing the code, debugging the code, something like that. Attractions, and another A tag. Contact.html. Contact me. Okay. And that's it. This is the general structure of my page, but until now, I haven't touched the style of the page. If we want to define a style for our web page, we should use an external CSS. To do that, we need to define a CSS file. I come here and click on this link, main.css, and start defining some rules. But before that, let's link the style sheet to this page. So linking something to this page is something related to configuration. So I need to change the head section of the page. So here I type link. The link tag has two attributes. Actually, it has two important attributes. It has more than two attributes, but these two attributes are important. The first one, rel, defines the relationship between the file that you are going to link to this page with this file. And we know that the file that we are going to link to this page will be the style sheet of this file. That's why we need to type style sheet here. And in the href, we need to type the address of the file that we want to link to this page. The address of the file is main.css. Okay, we link the style sheet file to this page. Now, if we go here and define some rule for our page, we can see the effect in the preview section. Let's define a rule for body of the page. We start with background color. Let's say the background color should be this. Let's make it like this. For now, it's enough. And then let's define some rule for NAV. Background color, let's say orange. And also for header, we may want to have specific background color in AV, and I want to change text color to white. You may want to increase the height of the header section. One good approach is using line height. We will see much more way to make it appealing, but let's start with line height option. Line height option allows you, line height property actually allows you to define the height of each line. Here I say that in the header section, the line heights should be, say, 50 pixels. Should be 80 pixels. So as you can see, we define line heights based on pixel. PX stands for pixel. And there are some other options that we will get familiar with them later. And the text will be in the middle of the line by default. Now we see there are some gaps between different elements. Let's define a general rule. A general rule starts with star. Star means this rule should apply to everything. Okay. The gaps between an element and its surrounding elements are controlled by a property called margin. We can set margin to 0 pixel. That means there should be no gap between an element and its surrounding elements. And you see we set it to 0, and in the preview we see that there is no gap between elements, between sections, between elements. So far so good. That's it for now.